darkness, my old friend. This is what happens when you ride bikes in winter. It gets dark early, and then you can't see anything, and I'm blinding myself with my own high beam. One thing I do love about this bike is the high beam is so bright, which is great when you're on a 125, because people just don't notice you're there. And because it's so quiet as well, the bike itself. It's good to know I have like that extra light that can blind people, which is good for being noticed sometimes, but also not so great in dodgy situations where you don't want to be crashed into if someone is dazed, dazzled even. Sorry, I can't turn it off. One good thing about riding at night as well though, when you get corners like this, as long as the other person has their lights on, which they should do if they're driving at night time, is that you can see when people are coming around before they're coming. So it kind of gives you an idea of who is and isn't on the road. And I kind of like riding at night as well, because it's just so, I feel like it's calmer. It soothes me, I don't know why. I used to hate it and now I love it. In my old job, I used to have to ride home at like 3 o'clock in the morning, which is fun, you know, when you're mega tired and you're like, it's not very safe, but I survived, except that one time where I had my first crash. But I wasn't actually that tired, that was due to something else. I actually, actually it's a really funny story. I meant to tell it at some point. Maybe I'll just tell it now. So what happened was, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I had a late, but I finished a little bit early. And I've got mild arachnophobia. Like sometimes I'm okay with spiders, but sometimes I really cannot handle them at all. I was trying to get over this sphere, which I'm still not really over. And there was this massive spider on my dash, like just under my screen. And it was huge, and I was freaking out. I spent about 20 minutes trying to get it off my bike. I even contemplated going up to some random cleaner who was in the car park and asking him if he could get it off my bike, because I was so petrified. And in the end I thought, fuck it, I'll just try and overcome this fear. So I started riding my bike, and I thought, okay, I'll keep an eye on the spider. If the spider flies off my bike, hits me and flies off onto the ground, sounds horrible, I'm sorry spider, but that's fine by me because it won't affect me, because it won't be on me. If the spider falls on my bike and lands on me and stays on me, that's when I will freak out, because I do not want the spider to be on me. So I kept looking down and looking up, looking down and looking up, and I literally got 2 seconds out of my work. I drove out of the car park, I drove around a corner and crashed because I was looking down. And I thought, yeah, that's fine. If the spider falls off, he will fly off. He will hit me and fly off, and it's fine. So at that point, I was calm. I looked back up and realised the corner I was going around was still going, and I was going straight. And I thought, oh, fuck. So what I decided to do was hit my brakes. I ended up hitting my brakes, and I don't know why. I could have just, like, rode away from the curb, but, you know, when you're a fairly newish rider, I think I've been riding for, like, 2 years at that point. I fixated on the curb, I hit my brakes, and my front wheel literally just bumped the curb, but that was enough. It bumped it, I was doing about 30 miles an hour, and, yeah, I crashed. Me and the bike went down, we were on the pavement, and we somehow managed to spin round, so we were actually facing the opposite way of the way we were going in the first place. And I fractured my ankle. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning, so it was dark, no one was around. The last person I was messaging was going to bed. My phone was dying, I only had a few % left. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? I thought I was trapped because I was on my front and the bike was on my feet, so I couldn't lift it off of myself. I couldn't get out. And I thought my leg was being burnt by the exhaust because it was so hot. And I literally thought I was going to burn my leg off. And I started screaming. I don't know why. I think it's because I watched this video of these crashes a few weeks before. And someone had crashed and they were like screaming. And I was like, why are you screaming? And maybe that got caught in my self-conscious. So I started screaming. I don't know. Or maybe it's because I fractured my ankle and I didn't realise it at the time. But maybe my body was like, yeah, this hurts. Start screaming. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was in danger mode because it was dark and I knew that I was alone, trapped onto my bike. But luckily, someone who I worked with, when they were leaving work, they saw and heard me screaming and saw a thing on the ground moving around, so they stopped their car and helped me get the bike off. called an ambulance, but someone else had already, some taxi man apparently already called an ambulance. And I'm thinking, so he called an ambulance, but he didn't stop to see if I was okay or help me or anything. Just some random Samaritan, but it didn't really help it at all. I don't really understand. So yeah, the ambulance came, the police came. The police came first and they were like, have you been drinking? I was like, no. They did a breathalyzer test on me and I was like asking if it would be affected because I have asthma, and they were like, no, probably looking at me like I'm an idiot. What are you on about? Oh my god, I felt like a numpty. Felt like a massive numpty. It was entirely my fault, and that's when I learned, always pay attention on your bike. It's very important. Oh dear. Yeah, I ended up, it was summer as well, so I couldn't ride for the rest of that part of the summer. And that was the same year that the Sausage Fest was on as well, so I didn't think I was going to go to it, and that was the first time I'd ever gone to Loomies as well. And luckily I managed to go. I didn't think I was going to make it at the time, but I managed it on the day, and I really wasn't supposed to be riding. But I thought, yeah, my foot kind of works good enough, it'll be fine. And it was for most of the day. And it was such a good day. I loved that day. Yeah. Moral of the story, always pay attention when you ride your bike. Oh dear. And that was the first sort of major crash I've ever had so far. Lucky, touch wood. Hopefully it stays that way. And then I've come off a few other times by just silly things. I've been rear-ended a few times. Surprised my bike is even still straight and not bent. I come off in the wet once. That was quite interesting because I was kind of just sliding. When you come off in the wet, you get soaked, but you kind of just slide. That was the most comfortable crash I've ever had, actually. Then there was the cyclist. That really hurt, but luckily I didn't break anything. I feel like in a way, even though it's scary, it's good to have a crash on a bike every once in a while because, or at least once when you ride, because you kind of get that realization that you're not immortal. So no matter how cocky you end up getting on your bike thinking you can do whatever you want, you realise that, you know, you can hurt yourself, and you can hurt yourself seriously. So you start being more aware, and you start being more careful, and you look up more, and you learn a lot more as well. So I feel like it's good. Even though it is terrible and no one wants to crash, and no one wants anyone to crash, I don't wish for anyone to crash, but when you do have your first crash, it makes and breaks a lot of bikers, because some bikers just don't get back on the bike anymore. They're like, that's enough for me, I don't want to ride. Some people can't ride if you have a really bad crash. That doesn't really make or break them. And then you get people who just go, oh well, that was a bit shit, but you know, I'll carry on. I'll just jump back on and carry on. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think once you've had a crash, then the next time you have a crash, you know what to do, you're prepared, and you don't feel as scared. The first crash you ever have, you're always like full of adrenaline, you're like, ah. Then the second crash, you're like, well, that first crash I had, that did shake me up. But then when I had that second one with the cyclist, I thought, oh, I've been through this before, I know what to do, check I've not broken anything, and I was a lot calmer. So that's just my opinion on it. What do you guys think? What's your opinion on it? You let me know in the comments, I will read them. But anyway, I need to do my Japanese lesson now, so I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!